All praise, glory, and honor is most certainly due to the Most High Elohim of the patriarchs Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And I want to say peace to each and every one of you in the name of his son, Yahushua HaMashiach, who we know as Jesus the Christ. So it's a blessing each and every single time that I can come before you to bring a message containing his word, and I never count it as a light thing to do so. In today's message, I want to deal with the Messiah, or the Anointed One. The Bible tells about one who would come to save all of humanity, not just to be king, but also he is our salvation. We know that to be Yahushua HaMashiach, or we know as Jesus the Christ. All right. But the question everybody should ask is, how do we identify him? Because many people profess and have professed throughout history, and even to this very day, that they are indeed, quote unquote, the one. OK, so the Bible tells us that there are specific characteristics about this one who could be, this is the way in which he would be identified. And if he doesn't meet this criteria, then he simply is not the one. So one way, or one category, is details surrounding his birth. OK, and if you actually look at this, you can understand that many people who are proclaiming to be this individual, like you have somebody in Eastern Europe, who people come to visit as if he is the one. He looks, and when you look at him, he looks just like the Europeanized, fallacious depictions of Christ from the Renaissance era. OK, we know that Christ didn't look like that, but he looks like he stepped off one of those paintings. Right. But he's not the one, but people believe him to be the one. OK, so how do you know who the Messiah is? Let's go to the better sheet. Let's go to Genesis, and we'll pick it up at verse 3, because in chapter 3, because in Genesis, we find that one is indeed coming. This is Genesis 3 and verse 14. Just to give it some context, this is a time during which you have judgment being poured upon man, the woman, and Satan because of sin. And notice what he says in verse 14. This is Genesis 3 and verse 14. It says, "And the Lord God said unto the serpent, Because thou hast done this, thou art cursed above all cattle, and above every beast of the field. Upon thy belly shalt thou go, and dust shalt thou eat all the days of thy life." All right, so we know from Revelation, the 12th chapter, that this serpent is none other than Satan. OK, it's referred to that as that old serpent. So they commune with Satan, and he said, "Dust shalt thou eat all the days of thy life." But then he says in verse 15, "And I will put enmity between thee and the woman, and between thy seed and her seed. It shall bruise thy head, and thou shalt bruise his heel." OK, so this enmity that is brought forth, he said between the woman, and then it says something, her seed. So normally the seed belongs to a man, right? But it says her seed because this particular seed is not coming from the loins of a man. Christ did not come from the Mashiach did not come from the loins of a man. OK, so this is how he could be deemed as her seed. And it says, "It shall bruise thy head," because ultimately what he does destroys the works of Satan, and Satan's going to be cast in the lake of fire. That's his head being bruised. But then it says, "And thou shalt bruise his heel." That's referring to the crucifixion. But now so one thing we know is that a seed is coming. Let's go to Isaiah, the 7th chapter, because in Isaiah, the 7th chapter, we find out that this seed is going to be born of a virgin. Isaiah, the 7th chapter, and we'll pick it up at one verse 14. And this is a sign. Isaiah writes, "Therefore," in verse 14, "Therefore the Lord himself shall give you a sign. Behold, a virgin shall conceive and bear a son, and shall call his name Emmanuel." So a virgin is going to conceive. Now, this is not a sign if this is a normal birth, but like a virgin, like if a virgin gets married, example, and then gets pregnant, that is not a sign. That is the natural course of things. But if a virgin who has not known a man like Miriam or Mary, and then ends up pregnant, that is something supernatural. That is a sign, and that is outside of being sired by a man. Okay, so his human nature was created then, but Christ has always existed. Before he's manifested in the flesh, he's always existed. That's why he tells you before Abraham was, I am. That's why he says in John 17, glorify me with the glory I had with thee before the world was. So he says, therefore the Lord himself shall give you a sign. Behold, a virgin shall conceive and bear a son and shall call his name Emmanuel. Emmanuel means El, which is a shortened name for the Most High. El with us. All right. He's going to come and tabernacle with us, but he will be born of a virgin. So we know that one is coming, and we know that he's going to be born of a virgin. OK, so if you know who your father is and your earthly father and you came from his loins, you're disqualified. All right, let's see something else. Revelation, the 12th chapter, because we want to go here to find out from what nation is the Messiah born. Revelation, the 12th chapter, and let's pick it up at verse 1. Revelation 12:1 reads, and there appeared a great wonder in heaven, a woman clothed with the sun and the moon under her feet, and upon her head a crown of 12 stars. Now, this is figurative language. Like most of Revelation is figurative. This is the symbolic. This is symbolic of the nation of Israel, and you know that because if you go back to Genesis, and when you read in the book of Genesis, you read about how Joseph saw the sun and the moon and 11 stars make obeisance unto him. That symbolized the nation of Israel. That because it was started with, obviously, with Jacob. OK, so that's what this is symbolic of. And then it says, so what's going to happen with this, out of Israel? It says, and she being with child cried, travailing in birth and pain to be delivered. Now, who is she bringing forth? Verse 5. And she brought forth a man child who was to rule all nations with a rod of iron, and her child was caught up unto God and to his throne. We know that is Yahushua or Jesus. So we know that the seed is coming. This child is going to be born. We know that to be born of a virgin and from the nation of Israel, not from Rome. He won't be a Roman, or not from Italy. Won't be of another nation. He's going to be an Israelite. And specifically from what tribe? Let's go to Genesis. Back to Genesis. Genesis, the 49th chapter. In Genesis, the 49th chapter, we find the prophetic blessing of the patriarch Jacob. And notice what he says about his fourth son, Judah. This is Genesis 49 and verse 8. It says, Judah, thou art whom thy brethren shall praise. Thy hand shall be in the neck of thine enemies. Thy father's children shall bow down before thee. Judah is a lion's whelp. From the prey, my son, thou art gone up. He stooped down, he couched as a lion, and as an old lion, who shall rouse him up? The scepter shall not depart from Judah, nor a lawgiver from between his feet, until Shiloh come, and unto him shall the gathering of his people be. So this Shiloh means to whom it is or to whom it belongs. One is coming out of Judah, right? Not out of Issachar, not out of Reuben, not out of Gad, Naphtali, or Zebulun, but out of Judah, binding his foal unto the vine, and his ass's coat unto the choice vine. He washed his garments and wine and his clothes in the blood of grapes. His eyes shall be red with wine, and his teeth white with milk. This is referring to Christ. So what do we know? A seed is coming. He'll be born of a virgin from the nation of Israel, specifically from the tribe of Judah. Where will he be born? Micah, the 5th chapter. See, if a man that's claiming to be the Messiah, the chosen one, like I remember years ago, I was in undergrad. I had just finished undergrad, and I was starting grad school. And I was in the gym at the school working out, and I had a discussion with this guy. He was about my age, and he was talking about, he said, I thought I was the one. And I didn't know what he was talking about. I said, one what? He said, the chosen one, the Messiah. I said, what it? I was like, this kind of the end of this conversation. You couldn't possibly be the one, right? You born right around where I live at. You couldn't be the one. Micah, the 5th chapter, and verse 1. It says, now gather thyself in troops, O daughter of troops. He have laid siege against us. They shall smite the judge of Israel with a rod upon the cheek. Notice what he says in verse 2. But thou Bethlehem Ephratah, Though thou be little among the thousands of Judah, yet out of thee shall he come forth unto me, that is to be ruler in Israel, whose goings forth have been from of old, from everlasting. So because he has always existed, but where would he be born? He would be born in Bethlehem. So surrounding his birth, we know when the one is coming. We know that he's going to be born of a virgin. He's going to come out of the nation of Israel, specifically out of the tribe of Judah, and he's going to be born in the town of Bethlehem. Now, let's see one other thing. Let's go to Deuteronomy, the 17th chapter, because what's going to happen around the time of his birth? Deuteronomy 17. Deuteronomy 18, and verse 15. Now this is Moses. Notice what Moses says here. He says in verse 15, Deuteronomy 18 and verse 15, the Lord thy God will raise up unto thee a prophet from the midst of thee, of thy brethren, like unto me, unto him ye shall hearken. So when you look at his life, it's going to parallel Moshe's or Moses' life. Okay. But now notice what happened at the time of Moses' birth. They were killing all the male babies, right? It was a genocide against the Israelite males. That's what the Egyptians put forth, a program of genocide. Well, what was going on when Christ was born? Let's find out. Let's pick it up at Matthew, the 2nd chapter. Matthew, the 2nd chapter, and verse, let's pick it up. Let's pick it up at verse 6, chapter 2 and 16. Because when he was born, they came, let's pick it up at verse 1, Matthew 2 and 1. It says, now when Jesus was born in Bethlehem, right? Because he had to be born in Bethlehem. In the days of Herod the king, behold, there came wise men from the east to Jerusalem. Now these are the Magi. It says, saying, where is he that is born king of the Jews? For we have seen his star in the east and are come to worship him. When Herod the king had heard these things, he was troubled, and all Jerusalem with him. And when he had gathered all the chief priests and scribes of the people together, he demanded of them where Christ should be born. And they said unto him, in Bethlehem of Judea, for thus it is written by the prophet, and thou, Bethlehem, in the land of Judah, art not the least among the princes of Judah, for out of thee shall come a governor that shall rule my people Israel. Then Herod, when he had privately called the wise men, inquired of them diligently what time the star appeared. And he sent them to Bethlehem and said, go and search diligently for the young child. And when ye have found him, bring me word again, that I may come and worship him also. But he had no intention of worshiping him. He wanted to kill him. So now in verse 12, it says, and being warned of God in a dream that they should not return to Herod, they departed into their own country another way. This is the Magi. Verse 13, and when they were departed, behold, the angel of the Lord appeared to Joseph in a dream, saying, arise and take the young child and his mother and flee into Egypt, and be thou there until I bring thee word, for Herod will seek the young child to destroy him. When he arose, he took the young child and his mother by night and departed into Egypt, and was there until the death of Herod, that it might be fulfilled, which was spoken of the Lord by the prophet, saying, out of Egypt have I called my son. Then Herod, when he saw that he was mocked of the wise men, was exceeding wroth, and sent forth and slew all the children that were in Bethlehem and in all the coast thereof from 2 years old and under, according to the time which he had diligently inquired of the wise men. That is the same thing that was going on in the days of Moses, right? Because what did they say in Exodus 1? In Exodus 1, it says in verse, I'm going to pick it up at verse 15. And the king of Egypt spake unto the Hebrew midwives, of which the name of the one was Shipra and the name of the other Puah. And he said, when ye do the office of a midwife to the Hebrew women, and see them upon the stools, if it be a son, then ye shall kill him. But if it be a daughter, then she shall be alive. So the same type of killing of the male babies was going on during the time of Christ's birth. Why is that significant? Because he said, because Moshe prophesied, he said, a prophet like unto me. Their lives parallel. And you can go on and on with that. But so what do we know? We know that one is coming, right? A seed is coming. We also know that he would be born of a virgin. We also know that he would come out of the nation of Israel. He would be an Israelite. He would be of the tribe of Judah. He would be born in Bethlehem, and his life would parallel the life of Moshe or Moses in the sense that even at his birth, there was genocide of the male babies, just like it was genocide of the Israelite male baby or the Hebrew babies in the days of Moshe. So we really want to understand why, because people say the name of Jesus, or they say he's Christ, but how do you know that he's the one? How do you know he's the one? He say, "This is my beloved son, in whom I'm well pleased," anointed at his baptism, because he came according to what was prophesied. That's how you know who he is. He's not the Christ just because you know his name. No, he's the Christ because it was prophesied that he would do these things, and these things would take place. And you notice with his birth, he has no control over his birth. In a sense, in a sense of, it's not like he could fabricate that to say that he was the Christ. No, that's not what happened at all. So with that, brothers and sisters, it is always my prayer that you were edified.